Okay, let's talk about Slice and Dice again. I've been playing this a lot. The video is the wrong aspect ratio and a little bit lower quality than I'd like because I recorded it on my iPad, because I play this game on my iPad pretty much every day at the moment. It's my sort of current fixation. I go through phases with these roguelikes. Obviously, I've done a video on this before a long time ago. It's very much not a new game, but it's had a bit of a new lease of life for me lately, partly because of this, which is the generated mode, which I didn't really click with before. Slice and Dice has a crazy number of features. Like, the game was good and finished when I last covered it, and then the developer just sort of kept on adding stuff and new modes and weird twists. There are the number of different modifiers for items and things in this game, the keywords that things can have, is staggering. I'm still discovering new ones. I discovered one the other day, which is an attack can be co-prime, which means it does double damage if my health and my victim's health are co-prime integers, which means that their only shared whole number factor is 1, which is actually pretty good. That's quite common. So it has insane depths, and generate mode kind of plumbs at that a little bit. I went off it early on because it does sometimes throw characters at you that are just bad, or sometimes things that are just weirdly sort of extreme, which you would expect from a random number generator, right? But it's not random. There's definitely some things it'll never do. It's never just going to give you like a straight damage side that has like 6 pips, early doors. But it will give you, by late game, like a shield side that does 14 shield, which the conventional classes never go anywhere near that. And I don't know why. I don't know, something about it felt off. Anyway, I've dug into it now, and I started to really enjoy it. And I want to talk about Slice and Dice in general. This isn't just about generated mode, but generated mode kind of brought some stuff to the fore that I think is really interesting. And I want to talk about Buildcraft first, because this is the thing that I'm obsessed with at the moment. I'm making a roguelike. I love roguelikes. Buildcraft is something I've latched onto as like the core of what I get excited about when I'm playing roguelikes. And I love comparing how different games do it. They're all very different on this one axis. And Slice and Dice, the strangest thing about it is it has 2 different axes of progression for your team. One is you find new items that modify your character's sides. I mean, I haven't stopped to explain the game really, but just sort of on the very basic level, as you can probably tell, each character has a unique dice, and you can see what faces they have. So here's an item that I've been offered. These are 2 level 1 items. One of them gives me a new spell. Because I'm playing on iPad, you won't see my cursor. I'm wondering why I'm not seeing a tooltip for the spell one. I guess I just already know what that does. I just want to check there's not like a display issue where you're not going to see tooltips. But no, you do see tooltips. This is just a different thing to where I could get 2 items if I take on an extra monster, and I actually choose to do this because those 2 items are kind of good. But yeah, this is the basic screen where you're thinking about upgrading your team. So I can put these items on anyone. Everyone has 2 item slots, and it'll modify their sides in some way. This one replaces the 3 right sides with mana 1, which is a decent side early on. Mana is probably the best type of thing to have on a dice face. It's only 1 pip, which is not brilliant, but it's definitely better than some blank sides. This one replaces all the blank sides with a heal 1, which is probably the worst kind of thing to get a pip of early on, but still better than nothing. So you're modifying your characters, and I love that system. That is so juicy, and there's so much depth to it. I'm still discovering like real nitty-gritty, cheaty, nasty, dirty things you can do with it. It really feels like hacking your build at its best. Not always. You have whole runs that go by without you ever finding anything like really broken. But when you do find something where you just cheat the system and get something beautiful out of it, it's incredible. I had one where by some combination of items, I could change the nature of the side to be I think actually I could change the anyone's center side to be a very, very strong version of what it currently is. So, and the way I did it was like 1 item ensures that all of your sides retain their basic nature when they're replaced, and only their pips change. The pips are how strong they are. And then the other one was this replaces your central thing with a 14 pip shield side. So if you equip those in that order, it means that your central thing won't change its type, but it will get massively strong. And so then the whole rest of the run was just figuring out who is the best guy to put this on, because one guy had a repel side in the middle, which normally is, when you get a repel side, it's usually 1 pip, and it gives, you target a friend, and it gives them 1 shield to protect them, and anyone currently attacking them takes 1 damage when you do that. If you make that into a 15 pip side, now they get 15 protection, and everyone attacking them takes 15 damage, which is just insane. And that wasn't even the best one. Like, you add it to a mana side, it's straightforwardly brilliant. But just finding weird, like, I think at one point added it to like a ranged cleave side, which means it can hit even backline enemies, and it hits 3 enemies at once, and it does 15 damage. Just so many cool combinations. And it really felt like that was a discovery. Like, oh, these 2 items together make this beautiful combination that's brilliant in a different way on every one of my heroes. So much cool stuff like that. Then the other side of it is that your heroes level up. And I guess we're going to hit this soon. I won't wait for us to get to it before explaining it. But I put level up in air quotes because you actually don't just improve an existing hero, you replace them with a new hero. And it's always a new hero of the same type. One of the things, the game has loads of crazy, exceptions to its rules and weird ways to play and all those things. But something that's very consistent, as far as I've seen, is when a red hero levels up, you replace them with a different red hero, but never a grey hero, never a yellow hero. These colors are classes, basically. Orange is rogue, yellow is warrior, grey is paladin, red is healer, and blue is mage. But within those broad genres, there are lots of different characterful combinations. And the big difference between normal mode and generated mode is in normal mode, these are named things. There'll be a warlock, there'll be a necromancer, there'll be a scoundrel, there'll be a barbarian or whatever. And those are themed sets of things that have been hand designed. Here, they're all generated. Honestly, it's surprising how little difference that makes. It's actually not... it's not that different to have these generated. There's a lot of trends in the way they're generated that don't really match how the designed ones work, but in general, it neither breaks the game, nor does it make it vastly better. But what it does do is keep it fresh. It's just always a little bit different. This top one looks amazing. I don't remember what I did here, but I assume I picked that one, depending on what that new spell is. Again, I would expect to be seeing the tooltip for the spell here. I'm a little bit curious if we're somehow missing some of this. But yeah, that's a great hero. Those purple daggers have the cantrip property, which means every time, while you're still rolling a dice, before you've decided to commit which dice to keep and which dice to re-roll, they deal damage right away. They're just doing it every time you roll them. So that's amazing. You can make whole builds about that. But yeah, what I did just there was I replaced my existing rogue with a different rogue. And my other option is to replace my mage with a different mage. They're just completely different. Nothing gets carried over at all, except items if you have items equipped. But even those, that's not a permanent thing about the character. That's the character itself has fundamentally changed 100%. Other than its color, your old character doesn't determine anything about the new character. So I do not consider that leveling up. I consider that replacement. Replacement with a higher level character, yes, but still replacement. And that is a very weird decision. Because if you think about it, like, the items also aren't level ups. Like, they can serve that way. Some items just buff the number of pips on a side or something, and that's like a level up. But then you're not permanently attaching them to that character, so that's still not a level up. It's still just it's equipment, as it should be. You can switch those things around freely, and I love switching them around. And the fact that the same item can have a new use with a new hero is a really cool thing about the game. But then having level ups be a complete replacement, it means if you get a class you really like early on, like that rogue I just got, I love it. I would like to keep that guy for the rest of the game, really. But I won't be able to, because that's only a level 2 character, and everyone is eventually going to level up to level 3. At least the game wants that to happen. And so the items and the level ups, it alternates. So every other fight you get a level up, every other fight you get an item. And it's clear from this replacement system that they want to push you to not stagnate in one build. I'm going to use a couple of sort of terms here. Like stagnate in a roguelike build-wise means sticking with the same tactic because it works, and then just doing the same thing over and over again for a whole run to the detriment of your own enjoyment, right? To some extent, there are some roguelike runs, I'd say most roguelikes really, you kind of work towards a build, and then that build starts popping off, and then you just pop off until you win. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's stagnating. It depends on how early that build gets locked in and how meaningfully it changes over time. But in general, I think working towards a single build and never significantly pivoting is not necessarily a bad thing. Pivot, I would define as like you change your build in such a way that the main thing about it is now different. Like the main way you're doing damage, the main reason it's effective is now a different reason. In the case of Slice and Dice, it can sometimes be that, early on I've got some cantrip daggers. You can lean into that. And if you get a bunch of characters that all have some cantrip sides, and especially there's a cantrip reroll, which means if that rolls while you're still rolling, you get more rerolls, so you can keep rolling. And if you can buff that a little bit, you can get into an infinite situation where I can just, as long as my people aren't dying from like retaliation damage or whatever, I can sustainably reroll his dice forever without the enemies ever getting a turn. And that's really cool. If you're doing that, and then you get offered a hero, in fact, this is kind of the crux of what I'm talking about. This top hero, let's say we go for a cantrip build and he's doing really well. We've got other heroes that support him by adding rerolls, so his daggers are hitting more often. We buff his daggers. Maybe we can add cleave to them, so they're hitting multiple enemies, or maybe they get more pips, so they're doing more damage. All of that is great. And then we get offered a choice of replace this cantrip hero with one who has some poison or one who has a lot of range stuff. And none of the options have cantrip in them. So this creates a really awkward decision because like that guy is the core of my build. And I get it. You don't want me to stagnate. You don't want me to do the same thing over and over again. You want me to, as I progress, also shift my focus. And sure, he's only 1 in 5 people. So most of the time that you do this to me, it's not the end of my build. My build mutates, it adapts over time. And I'm like, okay, this guy, the gray guy, one of my favorite things on gray heroes is they often can stun an enemy. So if the enemy has less health, that enemy doesn't get to do anything that turn. And if that's a big part of my build and then you replace that, it's not the end of the world. It's like that was helping sustain, but there's other ways to survive. We can get some shields, some healing or regen or something that might serve a similar purpose. But if I've got this cantrip build, and here we go, like this bottom hero has 2 reroll cantrip sides, I probably take that. I don't remember again, but that would currently is thinking that would be a really, really good combo. Yeah, I've replaced my hero. So I've got cantrip shields, I've got cantrip daggers, I've got cantrip rerolls. This is shaping up really well. But at some point, it's going to tell me, hey, you need to replace your rogue with one of these 2 options. And you don't have to. You can skip it, but I'll get back to what the downside of that is. And the problem is, if I replace that guy with a non-cantrip option, this whole build falls apart. Like, the guy who's giving me rerolls, they help a little bit, but it's not a good use of 2 sides with your mage. Your mage, if it's not supporting a cantrip build in a meaningful way, you want it to be giving you mana. The guy who's got cantrip shields, again, good, but you don't choose where those go, and shield on someone who doesn't need it this round is useless, whereas damage cantrip, it's always helping, right? You always want to deal damage to the enemy. Sometimes it doesn't end up hurting them because they have some protection or whatever, and it's not the ideal guy to target, but it's generally good. It's just almost always helping, and sometimes it's absolutely brilliant. Sometimes it's shredding whole hordes of enemies before they even get a chance to attack. So if you lose your cantrip attack, then you just don't have a build anymore, and you've got to end up replacing those 2 guys. But if one of those guys is already level 3, you won't get a chance to replace him. You might maybe remotely have a chance of re-rolling him, but it just kind of breaks the whole team. And so in that situation, when you offer those 2 choices, you can skip it, or you can accept a random hero of the same level. So this is not a sort of fatal problem when you have, for example, a whole team of level 2 guys. If you're offered 2 level 3 upgrades, I think it's generally true that if all your team are the same level, if you have multiple people of the lowest level, then you'll get offered options for 2 different characters. So that if there is a guy you're really attached to, you can keep him around for longer and not replace him until you absolutely have to. But once you have like a team of 4 level 3s and 1 level 2, every level up they ever offer you will be 2 options for the level 2 guy. And if you skip it, you just don't level up. You just miss out on that potential power progression. Like level 3 characters are generally better. They have more health, they have more pips on their dice, they just do more in general. So you are holding yourself back a little bit. And that's okay if it really is everyone's level 3 and that guy's level 2, you're probably close to the end of the game, so skipping that level up isn't going to completely curse you. But sometimes you have a situation where like, I like this guy now, and he's the last one to level up to level 2, let's say. But you just have to replace him, because if you skip, it's only ever going to offer you replacements for him. And if he's just what you want, if he just has cantrip and nothing else does, then every time you get to a level up stage, you're having to just pass up power. You know, all your other people are being held back by this guy. They can't progress until he progresses. And it's just an incredibly strong signal from the game, like, don't do this, don't play this way. It even tells you when you skip in that situation, it'll have an extra little thing on the dialog box saying, like, are you sure this is not recommended? The game is sort of bloody-mindedly determined to make you change this one guy. As I'm saying it, it's only now that I kind of sped it all out, I'm realizing this only really comes up when the guy you like is at level 1, which is surprising because the times this has happened, it's a guy I just kind of want to keep to the end of the game. Like, I would love to level him up. I'd love to do a non-air quotes level up, where we just improve the guy I already have because I like what he does. I just want him to do it better. And I can do that myself, actually, with items. Like, stack more items on him, get better items that synergize better with him. That is leveling him up. I don't mind if he has a little bit of health and he dies really easily or whatever. Like, we can work around that. And the game doesn't want you to do it, which is surprising because I think that's really cool. If I find a level 1 hero that I would rather have than any of the level 2 options and potential level 3 options. I haven't seen the level 3 options. You know, you don't offer me those until we get to level 2. But I am sort of implicitly saying, even those, I don't want to, unless you show me a concrete one that's definitely the same kind of thing but better, I don't even want to hear it. My level 1 guy is going to carry me through to the end of the game. That's great. But the way it's structured means that in that situation, you can only keep that level 1 guy if you hold back all of your other guys at level 2, which you don't want to do. Like that's never the case where like your whole team is already perfect before any of them are level 3. You do want to level up some of your team. And I just think it's always a mistake to put the player in a position of if you want to keep doing this thing that you're enjoying, you're just opting out of all the other fun. You're just not allowed to have any other kind of progress. It's not forcing you, but it kind of is forcing you. It's basically saying you don't get to play the progression game anymore if you don't level up this one guy, which is just too heavy-handed, I think. I think just in general, the replacement system is already such a weird decision. It's such a strange way for level up to work. I'm not saying it's outright bad, but it is destructive to the player's investment in their build. Like, it's even before it gets to the point that you've got one guy left and they're insisting on you leveling that up. It's quite common that I have like 3 people I really like and you keep offering me terrible options for them. Right here, I don't have time to fully grok how good these are. These both look pretty bad to me. And if I like my current guys, which I think I do, I probably don't want either of these. And then my options are either just skip this whole level up, just nothing happens, which is always a boring option at best, and it's also very disadvantageous to me, or take a random tier 2 level up, which I think I just did. And actually that's worked out all right for me, but sometimes it can be awful because the randomness is both what you get and who it replaces. So again, it'll always be within the same class, but I didn't know it was going to replace my druid, my healer, whatever. I don't remember how attached I was to that healer, but if you're very attached to a healer, this can be a disaster. I've had runs where like you click that button and it just snipes out your best guy and replaces it with a trash class that just does nothing for you. And obviously, you know, me being very judgy about which classes are better and worse, you know, it's very personal, and I'm probably wrong that, you know, pro players would get a lot of value out of classes that I think are absolute rubbish. But it doesn't really help. Like that's still, the player is going to have opinions and care about these things, and that's a good thing. You want to encourage that. You want to lean into it. You want to let them express that and explore it. And that I've just learned that random button is if you have a good build where people are synergizing, that button becomes Russian roulette. You just can't afford to click it. It's just so destructive. So I've had runs where I'm just skipping for the last like 4 level ups because the build I have works really well, and there were like 3 guys in it, each of whom it would be a disaster to replace him with someone worse. Like, obviously, if you have a build that's incredibly fragile, where like it only works because this one guy has this specific thing, then I understand why the game might want to discourage that. Like, that's kind of a bad build. In the same way that, like, in Slay the Spire, if your whole build only works if you draw this one card, that build is going to fall apart because you might not draw the card at a critical time and you just run out of health and get punished for that. But Slice and Dice already has so much randomness in it. I'll talk about this in a sec, but, like, it's dice. They're the most random things there are. You already have loads of reasons not to lean on depend on any one thing happening, to a crazy extent. And again, it's not just a case of like this is only a problem when you have one guy who's your hard carry, who's supporting your whole team. It's a problem when you have a ton of guys you like. It's like, I don't want to replace any of them. But you're saying if I don't, I just can't progress. Nothing gets better. I just have to hope I get a good item. The items are amazing in this game at times. That some of them are wild, and the power progression of them is insane. But they are very situational. And even though it gives you a choice of 2 each time, sometimes neither of those 2 do anything for me. So you can just, like, what's the opposite of luck out? You can sort of crash out on item choices as well, and just get given nothing that helps. So the fact, if you're also passing up character progression, you're just getting nothing. Your build's not changing at all. I'm just getting some items I can't equip, or there's no point in equipping, and heroes I don't want to replace my current ones with. And those runs just kind of suck. And that seems really avoidable. There's other stuff about Slice and Dice that's harder to fix, I think. But that one just seems like an easy fix. There should be some concept of leveling up. Like, I would like to just be able to add a pip to one side on one character. Like, that would be a meaningful and exciting progression for me most of the time. And if I've got a class I love, like, I don't think you need to try and bully me into replacing it with a completely different kind of character. For one thing, presumably, part of the reason that they force you to only ever replace a yellow hero with a yellow hero is to keep this kind of a consistency of role. Like, you know, your gray guy is going to be your defense generally. Your rogue type character, your orange character, is going to have some range stuff and a lot of damage and stuff like that. So it's not like, if you wanted us to just change as much as possible over the course of the run, you'd let us change classes as well, right? Just have it be completely freeform. You offer me a cool new yellow hero, and I can replace any of my guys with that? That would be cool. That would be an interesting kind of progress. I assume there's balance reasons not to do that. I think it must be a case of, like, all blue heroes is probably pretty strong, because mana is just generally really good, and spells are really good, and blue characters give you both sources of mana and also new spell options, and the combination of that is probably overpowered. But still, like, as a rare thing, that would be cool. And I'm not necessarily advocating for that. I'm just saying, like, if the goal is variety, you could do that. The forced changing of your team. I've never seen a roguelike that is so insistent that you tear apart the build you currently have. Like I say, it's not strictly impossible to take a level 1 team all the way through to the end of the game, but it would be crazy. It would be very, very difficult to make it work. And it wouldn't be fun. There'd be no... You know, if the point is to stop us stagnating, this is extremely stagnant. If the other options you give me are just no good, I have the choice to just not level up. And sure, you try and pressure me to do so by ensuring that the enemies scale up, and if my characters aren't scaling up, then I'm going to struggle. But all the time that I'm resisting your changes, I am truly stagnating, not just sticking to the same archetype of build, but I'm not progressing at all. My whole build is just static, which is the worst of all worlds. So you don't want to encourage that. Like, anything where you're trying to pressure the player to do something, and their option for resisting your pressure makes the game boring, as well as, you know, making life hard for them, is not great. That's an imperfect solution, I think. So yeah, I'd love some way to, like, just level up your characters. The items, I guess I've already talked through, like, some of the crazy synergies you can get going with the items. What's wild about the items, basically I love the item system, and I wouldn't change it. But one way to level up a character, adding one equipment slot to a character would be a very big, very juicy level up, and that would be really exciting to figure out who that should go on. I think replacing characters shouldn't be scrapped. I like that as a part of the game. I would consider having it like 3 different kinds of rewards. So right now it's 2 kinds of rewards and alternates between them. You could have 3. So it's like offer you an item, offer you a replacement for one of your heroes, and then offer you a level up for one of your heroes. And it could be, you know, I get the feeling that the game doesn't want to give you too much control, perhaps because you can make broken builds when you have more control. So it could be as dictatorial as the level up option is either add 1 pip to the top side of your blue hero, or add 1 pip to the left side of your gray hero. You know, for whatever values of that. Not true random. You probably try and tailor it because the game does have a sort of hierarchy of which sides are most important. The left side is generally the best one, and the right side is generally the worst. But that would create interesting decisions, and it's just progress. It's just good, right? So you know the player is going to want it. That would just be a nice way of progressing. And then if you don't offer me a level up for the character that I want, then that's applying a different kind of random pressure that might evolve my build. Anyway, I think it's done so you can do that. The thing I want to say about the items, other than the fact I love them, is the progression is so wild. Where, there's so many weird, quirky things about this game that fascinate me. But level 1 items are almost useless. They are really kind of rubbish. And in particular, the thing that's a little bit sort of disappointing about them to me is that you're not going to stick with them generally, even if they, the one that replaces the blank sides with heal 1. That's actually one of the better level 1 items, but it's not great. And by the end of the game, you're just not going to want that. Or if you do have it on a hero because they do have some blank sides and you've got nothing else to replace the blank sides, it's just never going to come up. Even if you roll it, you're always going to re-roll it. It's just going to become irrelevant. I did get a decent one here that was the one that adds mana 1 sides, I think is all right. But again, the later you get in the game, the less that's going to be good. And then level 2, level 3 is a lot of stuff that's kind of okay. And then by level 6, they start to get really good. And then level 7 is amazing. And then it goes up to level 10, I think, or maybe level 9. And the items up there are just complete game changers. There's one, and this is not even a max level item. I think I might be completely wrong, but let's say that the maximum level of item is 8. This is a level 7. It's called Charged Hammer, and it replaces your left side with this hammer that does 10 damage just straight up. You can see the pips on my dice here. Let's see how far through the video we are. A third of the way through. But they don't get dramatically more than this. A sword that does 5 damage is a good weapon to the end of the game. I would say that's fine to take into the final fight. It shouldn't be your best side, but that's competitive. You roll that, you might not re-roll it. You might say, actually, yeah, 5 damage is pretty good. So 10 damage just straight up is amazing. And it also has the keyword charged, which means it does extra damage equal to the amount of mana you currently have. Now, by the end of the game, almost all of my good builds have great mana generation. I'm already wanting to build 6, 8 mana in a turn to fuel some incredible spell. And charged doesn't use up the mana. So you generate your 8 mana. Now that hammer does 18 damage, and then you still get to spend the 8 mana. It's just absurd. And that's not a max level item. And compared to even just an item that's 2 levels lower, you might get something that's just useless. Literally doesn't help you. I just leave this in my inventory. It just literally has no way of benefiting me in any way. It's too situational. It doesn't affect the build that I want. It's wild how fast it escalates. And there's part of me that kind of wishes it was a little bit more evened out, just because the early game, the items, I just don't care. They're not never exciting. It's just there's a slightly shift your build. And it's in the early game, it wouldn't hurt to give me a bit more of a boost, just to mess around with, just so I'm playing a bit more early on and just making some bigger decisions. But then the fact that these massive game-changing items are going to happen right towards the end is really exciting. It makes the end game this wild time when, yes, you've been establishing this build for this whole game, and you think you know what it's going to be, and then you get an item at level 7 or level 8 that is just oh, fuck. Actually, let me see if I can rearrange everything to support this as the main thing we're going to be doing. And that's just amazing. And because you get so few shots at those, let's say level 7 and 8 are the top two, and it's generally those that are the crazy good ones. That means you're going to get 2 of them. One of each in each run. So your whole run, this runs an hour and a bit, you're going to get 2 shots at two draws of that lottery. And what you draw, it isn't always amazing. There's some that are just it just doesn't fit with my build really. But the fact that you're going to get 2 things that they're going to totally change your build, change your run, is very exciting. And then the fact that you get so few shots at it means there's so much undiscovered there. I may not have found all of them yet. You also unlock them through achievements, so there's a natural progression there where I don't know if I still have more to unlock. I probably do, actually, because there's tons of esoteric achievements, but I just unlocked a new item maybe a month ago after playing this game for, 4 years or whatever, an item I've never had before. And that's really exciting, and the fact that they are so build-changing is great. I want to talk about one more thing I don't like about the game, which is really baked into it. This is the one that would be very hard to change, which is dice. Randomness in roguelikes obviously is very good. It is very important to keeping things fresh. But I think dice are the bad kind of randomness. I think cards are the good kind of randomness. And then, there are other roguelikes, obviously, that don't have dice or cards. But just in general, the good thing about cards versus dice is that there is a kind of hard limit on your bad luck. If you have a deck of cards that is, just to look at a really simplistic example, it's just 5 terrible cards and 5 great ones. Even if you draw all 5 terrible cards on one turn, sure, you can have a disastrous turn. It could be really damaging. But the next turn, you're going to get the 5 best cards in your deck, and it's going to be an amazing turn. And there's ways, if they're very situational, it can still screw you. You can have situations where you just draw, in Slay the Spire, for example, you start with 5 defense and 5 attacks. It is possible in Slay the Spire to start a fight, and they're attacking you, and let's say they're not attacking you, and you draw 5 defense. So all you can do is defend yourself, and you don't need to defend yourself, so your cards do nothing. But even that, it's not that bad, because you are going to draw all your attacks next time, and the attacks are kind of always useful. So cards just have a built-in insurance against bad luck. Dice have nothing. There is no safety net. It can go unbelievably bad. And I don't believe Slice and Dice does any kind of management of that bad luck. My reason for believing that is partly that you see the dice physically roll. That does appear to be simulated. You see times when the physics simulation gets stuck and the game has to kind of jostle it a little bit to wait to see what the result is. So I don't believe it's a purely cosmetic thing. I think that it actually is simulating the dice rolls, which most dice-based games do that. They want it, because seeing the dice physically roll is satisfying, so you kind of want that in your game anyway. And once you decide to do that, I think it's very hard to fudge those dice rolls to ensure anything. So I think they are all, in this game, true random, and true random is terrifying. I've had rolls that are just unbelievable, and you think you know how bad it can get. It's like, sure, in D&D you can crit fail like 3 times in a row or whatever, and that's terrible. But the depths of it, just to have like a really good build where all of your people have like 5 good sides and one that's just like okay, like in some cases it's blank, terrible. Other cases it's like good, but like it has a big downside, like it hurts you or something. And to just roll all 5 of those again and again, and just have that end your run, just like, it might not be game over this turn, but 3 of my guys are going to die. I have a ton of defense, and I'm just not rolling any defense. And my attack that I am rolling, or whatever I am rolling, it can damage these guys, but it can't take out the critical ones, so I'm just going to lose 3 people on turn 1, which means then I've got to defeat this whole set of monsters, none of whom have died, with 2 people. And it's just, that's the end of your run. And it's just bad luck. You did a great job building your team, you chose really good stuff, you were really excited about it, you were loving your build, and just game the fuck over, because luck just can go as bad as it wants to. And then there's other things, like, separately from just how much it can screw you strategically in terms of like how well you do, it can also just be really irritating and boring. It can just be like, would you like to roll this side? No, I don't want to keep it. Reroll that. Would you like that same side again? No, I still don't want it. Would you like that same side again? No, I've got extra rerolls. Fucking roll something else, please. Would you like these 3 sides? The same 3 sides you just saw 4 times in a row? Like, fucking no! It's just really fucking annoying. It feels like the game is sort of failing to listen to you. I know you're not actually doing, I mean, you are expressing your dislike of these things, and it's just serving them back to you. There's something really kind of obnoxious and annoying and boring about it. So Slice and Dice does a great job of mitigating that and getting the fun out of it. They let you have these crazy sides like that charged hammer, partly because there is no way to guarantee rolling that, every time. I guess if you have enough rerolls, you could pretty much guarantee it. But in general, the randomness of dice is part of how it lets you have very powerful sides and some situational sides and all this without it being too easy to just zero in on a reliably great build every time and just always win. So it gets good value out of the randomness, but again, cards are just kind of better. I'm not saying Slice and Dice should have been designed with cards instead, because I'm really glad it exists, because there are tons of dice games out there, and this one for me just kind of it's the pinnacle of the genre. It's like, here's how to make dice characterful and interesting and modify them with items and do all this juicy stuff, and just on a personal note, it stopped me from making a dice game. I was planning one, and I played this, and like, oh, it's not the same game that I was designing, but it really hits the goal I wanted to hit with mine, which is characterful dice, like the dice sort of defining a personality, defining a class, and feeling like juicy and rich and interesting, and tweaking the size and all this stuff. It does all that stuff great. So I don't need to make my game, and also it illustrates that I shouldn't make a dice game anyway, because bad luck is so frustrating. It's such a frustrating way to lose a run. It is just bad in so many ways. I wouldn't be able to put up with it in one of my own games. It would drive me crazy. I just wouldn't be able to accept it and release it, because having those extreme frustrating cases, all of our games are trying to ensure that can't happen, right? Trying to make sure that everything is sort of forgiving and can't ever really screw you over. And that we keep everything in the fun zone of adversity. Like, oh shit, this is a problem. I got to really think about this. Yeah, and the other thing the other reason that the bad luck, the particular nature of the kind of luck that dice provide, is a problem, is that I'm playing on normal difficulty here, and I've been encouraged. The Eggplant podcast did some deep dives on Slice and Dice, and a lot of those guys are really hardcore players of it, and they're saying like, oh, you need to, no matter what your skill level, just play this game until you can reliably beat hard, and then you go into certain other special modes that they recommend. And I can't. I'm just like, well, I've tried hard and I lose, and the luck factor is so pronounced that it's very frustrating to lose. Every time you lose, it's always luck, right? You're not going to lose a run if you always roll the sides that you want, even if you're not a very smart player, a very experienced player. So every time you lose, it's to some extent down to luck. And when that happens, I just have a real hard time getting excited about playing again. It's just like, well, why? Sure, I might get lucky next time, and I might make better decisions that mitigate my bad luck, but I can't really sort of feel out where it's going wrong. I can't really develop an intuitive sense of like, to what extent was that loss down to bad luck, and to what extent was it down to bad decisions? And if it was down to bad decisions, it's hard to know what the better decision was, because again, your choices about what classes to take and what items to take, especially what classes to take, are very dictated by the game. It's just going to offer you some stuff that might not be what fits with what you have, and maybe it's going to fit with something you get offered later, but you don't know what you're going to get offered later. So that can feel like another axis of randomness that you don't know to what extent that was a factor in your downfall. It just basically, the harder it gets, the type of strain that this game has is one that feels very luck-based. So when you are at the brink of failure, when you are at the point where your team is falling apart and you're not going to win this run, you are in the bad luck zone. even if actually the reason I'm failing is I did a bad job of choosing things, which I'm sure it is, because there are players I'm sure who can consistently win on hard every time. So on some level, there is a skill issue, but the feeling of losing is always, it's luck of the dice, literally luck of the dice. and you're rolling stuff. There's stuff I could have rolled that would have made me win the situation. I didn't roll that stuff. So the feeling of failure is always this like, fuck's sake, why didn't I roll this? Like, it doesn't feel like my fault. It doesn't feel, I'm not excited to try again because I don't feel like I know what to do differently. And yeah, that's a problem with dice. Whereas, with a deck building game with cards, it is clearer how you got screwed. It's like, well, I didn't draw any of my, defense this round. I should have had more defense in my deck. Because if you have enough, then you're guaranteed to draw some of it. And you can still get screwed by luck, but often the brink of failure in a deck builder has a bit more of that feeling of like, okay, I see what I did wrong here. I think I know how to build my deck better in future. Yeah, so it's a shame about the luck side of things, but the Buildcraft in general is really cool, and generated mode has been really fun just for like stumbling into different kinds of builds. I got Shield Bash here. My yellow hero has a thing that does as much damage as he has shields, and that's something that in the base game I had some fun with it, but it's not usually a cornerstone of my build. In generated mode, I've learned to grab that if it comes up, if you possibly can, because like I mentioned earlier, generator mode is really generous with shields. It'll give you like a 14 shield side, and if you have that and this, then you've got an incredible thing going. And there's a load of other little synergies like that, where like, in the base game, it's rare to get an opportunity to make this really pop off and be the core of your build, but in generated they can. And just that feeling of like, you're going to get offered things that are a little bit different. Sometimes they suck, which makes the random rerolls, if you don't like your two choices and you say, just give me a random one. In generator mode, that's even more harsh than in the base game in terms of how likely it is to absolutely screw you. And when that happens, it can just feel like the end of your run, which sucks. So the art of playing generator mode for me is just trying not to have to click that button, which makes me more inclined to try to take... It offers me two mediocre choices to replace a hero that I think is good. I'm like, you know what, I'll take one, because if I go random, it might be even worse, which is an unhappy compromise to kind of adapt around this level up problem. But you can kind of settle into it and kind of get used to it and still have a lot of fun with generator mode.